the first job I did for Steven Spielberg was a movie called Watch the Skies, and it was based on research that he had done for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And in that research, I kept running into these men in black, who were these guys who dressed all in black, and if you saw a UFO, they showed up at your house the next day and said, "You didn't see anything, did you?" And made it like you were either crazy or going to get in trouble if you told anybody that you saw a UFO. And then if you invited them for lunch, they drank the Jello. You know, just something off about these guys. And so we wanted something off about them. So a lot of the physical stuff that we do in it, we actually did backwards. We flipped the camera upside down, because that means that if you're shooting on film, you can later flip it this way. And in fact, so we would start on the stools in the bar, and then get up and back out of it. And then, you know, one time we were, if you notice on the street when we leave the bar, the backup lights in the cars are on even though it looks like they're going forward. It just gives a strange motion to stuff like that. I've acted in a bunch of my own films. Usually, I was an actor before I did anything else. And usually it's a character who, well, it's always a character who has no character arc. Because you almost never get to shoot a movie. I've never gotten to shoot a movie that was shot in sequence. You're shooting scene 12, scene 34, scene 2, scene 88, scene 1. And if your character has an arc, they've got to keep track of where am I? You know, Joe Morton in that film who plays, he's assimilating. And in each scene, he moves a little bit more like an Earthling, like an American. He dresses a little bit more. He understands a little bit more what's going on. And we only had 4 weeks to shoot that movie. And I said, Joe, you're in charge of that. You know, you got to see where we are and what you're going to do physically, because I got a lot of other things to deal with. So when I play a part and I'm on both sides of the camera, I always pick somebody who doesn't change.
Roger Corman's real famous for upstarting a lot of careers of directors and actors. What are your experiences working with him?
You know, my experience working with Roger Corman was really valuable. Roger was basically just a businessman, and his movies, he made them mostly for drive-ins or inner-city theaters where they were going to play 2 weeks, not be reviewed. They were absolutely genre films. They were all under 2 hours, and they were all very low budget. He wanted them to be fast-moving and fun, but if they weren't, he didn't care, because he was already in profit before you started rolling the camera. The only way he could lose money with the way he made movies was if you went over time or over budget. And so that's really what he cared about. However, if you could stay on time and on budget and make a good movie, that was fine with him. So the great thing was he would set people loose who had usually come out of his editing room. He felt he would start you editing the coming attractions trailers, and then if you're good at that, he'd have you edit a feature. And he felt like, well, I don't care if you can work with actors. The acting is going to be terrible half the time anyway in these horror movies. I don't have any money for big special effects. You don't have to know about that. But what you do have to know about is what angles to get, so the poor editor doesn't have to cut something together that won't cut and that can't move forward. And that actually, some of his good directors came out of the editing room. So the main thing that I learned working with him, because I wrote 3 movies for him, they all got made, which is very rare for a screenwriter to write 3 movies and they all get made within months after I wrote them. On none of them had the director been chosen when I was writing them. So I was writing directly for him and his kind of story analyst, Francis Dole. They were both people who had made a lot of movies together, so there weren't these airy discussions about the first act and the second act. It would be, on page 57, you have another piranha attack. I think this is too soon after the last piranha attack. Why don't we have a humorous incident that takes up another 3 pages? And then people will be, you know, placid enough that they can be scared again. Very good, you know, you could really feel the rhythm in the screenplay of the thing. And then the other big thing, because eventually I'd get a call from the director who had been chosen at the last minute. And they're usually saying, help, you know, you've written epic with 83 speaking parts, and I've got, you know, $500,000 to shoot this, and 4 weeks to do it, or 5 weeks to do it. And I do one more draft for the unpaid for the director as a favor, so I get to work with them a little. And what I really learned was what is labor intensive about movies, what can you just do with a lot of hard work and cleverness and, you know, intelligence, and what costs money. So when we went to make our first, you know, when I went to write my first $40,000 movie, I knew what cost money. And so everything was written to basically take advantage of the talents of our acting friends. David Strathairn was in that, Gordon Clapp, who's been in a bunch of big features, a bunch of other really good actors were in it, and not have to have it weigh on things that cost money. So there's no action in the film. You know, action takes a long time to shoot because you're shooting a lot of little shots to put something together. Maybe one more, we gotta go pretty soon, yes.
Talk a lot about the things you do to accommodate actors in your films, and I was wondering, did this all originate from your experience as an actor, working as an actor? Like your audition process, that seemed very unique to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I continue to be in movies that I don't direct if people ask me. Last year I did a little part in this thing that was over in, what was it, New Iberia, that has Tommy Lee Jones and John Goodman in it, playing an idiot director. But I got 2 days on the set. I got a window into how Bertrand Tavernier directs. I got to see some actors I'd never worked before. I'd actually been in a scene with John Goodman years and years early, like 15 years earlier, but some of the other acts, I got to see them without them knowing they were auditioning for me. And I got to see crew people who were, you know, basically, they're just doing their jobs. They don't know I'm watching what they're doing. But also, I keep thinking whenever I'm on one of those sets, you know, what would have been helpful to me? What was a good direction from somebody? What made me feel comfortable? What makes me feel like I don't know what I'm doing here? Even down to this thing where they often park you in a trailer. I really like to go and get on the set, you know, and walk around it. So one of the things that I always do when a new actor comes on, and I have to say, you know, we're not going to get to you about 3 hours. I say, would you like to go walk on the set? We're not on it yet. And then if I've got 2 minutes, I'll go over and I say, this is kind of what the blocking is going to be, and this is where, you know, it may not be on screen, but that's where you would have come in from, and this is where this is, and this is what you can see out the window, even if it's not what you really can see out the window. And they may be very happy to spend an hour on the set there.
They are our partners, actor. They are other workers, and I think that's really what you're seeing. I hope that we treat the script supervisor and the craft service with the same respect that we treat an actor. And I think that's one thing that happens on our sets that people talk about, is that it's a relaxed and egalitarian and non-competitive way to work. What you want, I think, as an actor, is to have everybody want to work with you. So you need the props guy, you need the script supervisor, you need the electricians to think you're just another good guy like they are.